Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. Before we get into this build, I do want to say a few things real quick so people understand why this build is coming, why I'm releasing it this way and all that. To start off, I made this build for in-game. And right now, according to the developers, there is a popular playstyle that is used at in-game, and I decided I would take my ability to make builds and try to create one that would be a viable in-game Templar build. Now, I have not tested this in the trials yet, so I can't say whether or not it would be a super viable build in trials. I will say that it would work really good against, like, say, AA, Hellraw Citadel, and Sanctum Ophidium. It'd probably work really good in there. VMA, it would be pretty good. And Halls of Fabrication, it would be good. And then, of course, the Ethereum not Ethereum Archive, Sanctum Ophidian, I think it is, or Asylum Sanctorium, sorry. Asylum Sanctorium. Oh my god. I'm losing my mind here. But Asylum Sanctorium, it would be good in those. In the new trial, it would probably work really good, but not necessarily still be the better option. Now, this is an end-game build, guys. So it is designed with the more popular playstyle in mind. And I just kind of wanted to release something to see what people thought of it, you know, get people's opinions on it, that kind of thing. There is some iterational stuff that you can do to this build to make it a little different or to give you a different utility. So let's get right into it. So starting here at the character screen, you can see it is the Meridia's Guardian build, and it is up to date to be a true in-game build. We are an Argonian. That is probably gonna be one of the better races to choose from right now. And I'm still kind of leery about releasing this now because I don't want there to be some change that comes through that'll completely nerf this, but I'm going to go ahead and attempt it. So, we're going to start off with our attributes. We have 44 into health, 9 into magicka, 11 into stamina. Because Argonians get only health really as a racial passive to increase. They do get 3% max magicka, but it doesn't really reflect much. You don't really notice it that much, but it's there. And the health is 9%, so you really see the health increase. Now, the other thing that's great about Argonian is they do get a special passive, which we'll take a look at real quick. That makes them really good for being a tank, and that is resourceful. Besides the 3% max magicka, when you drink a potion, you restore 4,620 health, magic, and stamina on top of the other resource that it gives. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what I'm using right now on the test. Right here I'm using the Tri-Crowns, which gives back 8,000 health, 6,000 magicka, 6,000 stamina. Now I used this in test yesterday, and I was pulling almost like 12k back, sometimes more, almost up to 17k resources back when I drink a potion. It was ridiculous. So Argonians get that really special potion thing that makes them really viable as tanks for resource management. Now going down here to the stats, you can see we have a 19,000 magicka with a 40k health and a 19k stamina. We do have 1,000 recovery, which is okay. It's not great, but it's okay. We also have a 217 health recovery with a 585 stamina recovery. Our weapon spell damage, doesn't matter. Move down here, we have 27k spell resistance with a 21k physical resistance. Now I'm going to show you guys what happens when you buff up with this build. So when you buff your resistances, you go to 33 and 27. Now you are running the Lord Warden set, so you will go over spell resist when Lord Warden procs. It's a benefit for the group, but don't stress it. It's fine if you go over a little. This is the one that you want to get higher anyways, because you are going to be tanking things like the axes and stuff like that. And getting that 50% mitigation can really play well with you in the end game. So moving on down here, we are running Ebon Armor, so we do have Ebon Armory. We do have the Antonok Mundus Stone for the magic recovery. We are a stage 4 vampire. You can lower this to stage 3. You don't really need the stage 4. But we'll get to that in a little bit. We do have minor intellect, minor fortitude, and minor endurance on 1 bar because of running repentance. And then we also are running tri-stat food. The food I am running is longfin pastry and with melon sauce. This gives you the most max health, magic, and stamina you can get in the game, and is really good for a tank because you do utilize resources, depending on the type of tank you are, of both magica and stamina. Alright, so that's pretty much that for there. We're going to move on over to equipment where I already was. So starting with the sets, you can see we are running a 5-piece or a 2-piece Lord Warden. We are running a medium helm with heavy shoulders. And I have done several tests with this, guys. If you craft a set of armor, you can make the gloves medium and leave the helm heavy, but you almost end up with the same amount of resistances either way. So it's almost better to go this route. Moving on to the body, we are running a 5-piece Torix Pact. This is a preferred set for tanks to use at endgame because of its benefits to them. The max health, mainly the 3, the 4, and the 5-piece are the main parts you're looking at. So the 3-piece gives you max health, the 4-piece gives you extra spell resistance, which is really good. Templars get an innate passive that gives them extra spell resistance on top of that. That's why our spell resistance is a lot higher than our physical resistance. We also have the 5-piece bonus, which decreases the weapon enchantment cooldown and increases its potency by 30%. We are using 2 infused swords with Crusher enchants, so we get that greater Crusher effect on them at the higher levels. Now we are running 5 heavy, 1 medium, 1 light. The light piece we're wearing is the belt. The helm is medium. The rest is all heavy. And as you can see, we are running all the pieces sturdy. The reason you want to run sturdy is to get that greater block cost reduction. At end game, you do a lot of blocking. A lot more blocking than normal, I should say. So, especially when you're playing a sword and shield tank, they're designed with blocking in mind, so this really kind of plays into that. Moving on down to the other 5-piece we are running a 5-piece Ebon set, and somebody asked, does it still affect when you swap weapons? The 5-piece set I'm wearing down here is I'm running a 5-piece Ebon right here, as you can see in the jewelry, and the legs and the gloves. The chest, the belt, and the boots are all Torix Pact, with the sword and shield being Torix Pact. So I didn't want to test the idea of having Ebon on the sword and shield and it not work when you swap gear on keeping the 1,000 health on your allies. So this works out better. You can go with this in jewelry now, so you could craft Torix Pact in jewelry and sword and shield if you want, and then just go 5-piece upper body Ebon. But we're not quite there with the, this is not live. So now going down to the jewelry, we are running 2 Tri-Rune stats here, as you can see, with both Crusher enchants on, or with Shield Play enchants. Shield Play increases your reduced cost to bash and block, so this saves you a lot of resources when you need to bash somebody, or you need to block something, like you need to bash something to interrupt it, or you need to block some like heavy hits. This also applies to it. It doesn't help that much, but it does improve, because the block cost, these 2 things, the block cost come off first before the percentage value gets reduced. So moving to the necklace, we do have a necklace that's infused with a potion enchant on it. This does help quite a bit because it reduces it normally by 5 seconds, but you increase that by 60%, and you're getting another 3 seconds on top of it, so it reduces your potions by 8 seconds. Now the nice thing about this is when you do use a potion, you still have 4 seconds left on your timer of your potions that allow you to, so like I'm going to activate a potion just so you guys can see. You'll see I have 40 seconds there, and normally you have a 45-second cooldown on your potions. Because of this, you have a 48-second cooldown, or you lose 8 seconds off that cooldown, so it actually goes to 37 seconds. So you actually have time left over before the potion wears off, and you get those effects. Now, the nice thing about this is it does increase your magic recovery by 1,188 from 1,000 something. So it gives you just a little bit more magic recovery, which is really good because you will be using a few magic abilities. So you want to really maintain those resources, and this magic recovery kind of plays into that. So now that the potion is worn off, we'll go continue on. That's the main reason why we have the potion glyph, is to make it to where we can keep potions up off of cooldown. So anytime your potions come off of cooldown, you can reactivate them, and it does help, especially for resource management on a Templar, because you don't have a lot. Next up, we have our sword and shield. Our shields are sturdy. All of our shields are tri-stats, and then our legs, our chest, and our helm are tri-stat. The rest are max health, as you guys can see. The reason I did max health on the smaller pieces is it gives you just more health, period. So it's just a little bit better to go with the max health on these smaller pieces, and the bigger pieces go with the tri-stats. And we did go 2 tri-runes, which give you 435 extra Magicka stamina and health, instead of going with healthy ones. Moving on down here to the swords, we are running 2 infused swords with Crusher enchants. You should be running Crusher on the back bar. I forgot to do that, sorry. Just go ahead and equip a Crusher on the back bar if you want. You can use the infused, or the hardening. You'll never notice it though, so because you're never on the back bar for more than a few seconds. Alright, so moving on to the skills. We're going to kind of go over the skills in a little bit more detail. We're going to just go down, I'm going to go down the list here until you guys just get all your passives. And then when we're going through the skills, I'll be going over the passives and why it's important to make sure you have all your passives unlocked and everything like that. So just make sure you have the passives that you need necessary to play this build. You do want to be a vampire, like I said, and the main reason why you want to be a vampire is undeath and supernatural recovery. So these are very, very, very powerful things for you, especially that Magicka stamina recovery really plays good with this, and then the undeath. So, but going over the skills, we'll just start on the main one. Here we have Pierce Armor. Pierce Armor is going to be your major breach, major fracture thing that you'll use to apply that with. It's very powerful, so just make sure you apply this every 12 seconds. And if you can, try to make sure you get a light attack off almost every 4, because you want to keep that Crusher applied. Next up, we have Heroic Slash. You can also run a staff on the back bar if you want to. I tested it, and it works. It's just, I'm not a staff person, so. Next, we have Heroic Slash. This is for the ultimate gain. And also applying Minor Maim, but you only apply Minor Maim to 1 target. Just remember that. So if you want to apply Minor Maim to multiple targets with this particular build, you're going to have to hit this on a lot of targets. Next, we have our Blazing Shield. Now, you can use the other shield that the Templar has, but to be honest, the main reason why I chose the Blazing Shield is, 1, Blazing Shield explodes, dealing damage back to the enemy, and it deals 48% of the damage incoming back to the enemy. It's not a whole lot, but it's enough to make a big difference, because I can't show you the numbers on PTS right now, but you're talking about like a 15k shield, maybe a little bit more, and then you add on top of that, you know, you take 48% of that, and that's almost 50% of the damage back to the enemies, and it explodes in an AoE radius of 5 meters around you. It also has a chance of proccing Burning Light, and Burning Light deals extra damage. Just a little bit, but enough to make a difference. The other reason why you're going to have this on this bar is because you want Spear Wall. This increases the amount of damage you can block from melee attacks by 15%. This is why I said against like axes in Ethereum Archive, this is a really good thing because you can block a lot more damage, 5% more damage over even the DK. So this is a really good setup for tanking AA. Moving on, we do get Balanced Warrior, and this is where we get that extra spell resistance, as you guys can see, 2,640, but we also get an increase of 6% weapon damage, which we really don't need, but it's still there. Moving on, we are running a Psijic Order ability, Deep Thoughts. This is the Meditate ability morph, and what you're going to do with this is you're going to use this as a resource management, because the thing that's nice about the Psijic Order skill line is by having a Psijic Order ability on your bar, if you have these certain passives, concentrated barrier, sorry, this gives you a 5,000 point damage shield for as long as it lasts. You do have to drop block for 10 seconds to get it back, and you're not going to be doing that too often, but every time you basically go to face a boss, you want to make sure you have this, because that extra 5,000 can make a difference. It's a minor one, but it's still a difference, because it takes away 5k of the initial hit you take. Next up is Deliberation, and this is the other reason why we have that particular ability on the bar, is Meditate is a channel ability, so when you have it going, you do get major protection the whole time you have this going. So as soon as you activate it, you get major protection. You can see it there, it shows the Meditate symbol. You're getting major protection though while you have this active. So as long as you have this active, it's doing that. Now the way to break this is to hit block, and as you see, when you hit block, you get a damage shield, and so that really helps out when you're tanking a boss, because if you do need to use Meditate, you can drop block, go into Meditate, you're gonna get 30% damage reduction, and your healer can pretty much keep you alive for a little bit, and then you go right back into block. And that's only if you're in dire need of resources. But I wouldn't do it for more than 2 or 3 seconds. So this will give you for every 1 second, you'll get 1,914 magic and stamina and 1,821 health. Now, since you are an Argonian, you do get 5% healing received. On top of that, being a Templar, you get minor mending, which does not, I don't think, apply to this, but we'll see. Oh, it does. So you do get the minor mending from this, which is really good. That's 2k heal every 2 seconds, like health recovery, which is kind of nice. The next ability we have is Absorb Magic. Now, you can choose to use this or not. There is another ability you can slot here if you want. It is from the Mages Guild, and that is Spell Symmetry. Now, if you do want to use Spell Symmetry, it is a very powerful ability, but it does take health to use, and it does help with magic resource management really easily. Like, it helps you with magic resource management really well. I just chose this to be here for the extra block cost reduction and the extra damage mitigation that it applies, because Templars don't have the 10% that DKs do for both magic and spell blocking, but they do have that 15% from spell wall, or from shield wall. So this can still play off of that, even though you are kind of wasting it on a Templar, but it's still there. Next up, we have Replenishing Barrier. You're not gonna use this. It's just here for the magic recovery that you get from the Alliance skill line under support, and you get magical aid. So we have this here for that. Moving to the back bar, we have, now you have 1 or 2 options here. If you're doing a dungeon or a trial that requires you to pull adds, you're going to want to use Silver Leash. Now, Silver Leash also applies a minor debuff to movement speed on the enemy when they're pulled to you, and it does give them immunity to this to snaring effects and things like that for 5 seconds or whatever it is. Now, if you don't want to use this, you can use the Undaunted Inner Rage Taunt. This is a magic taunt, so be kind of careful, because this build is built with kind of a few magic abilities, so you wanna use this sparingly. unless you really need it. So that's why I chose this on the front bar. The next ability we have on our bar is Ritual of Retribution. Now, you can go with Extended Ritual, but Ritual of Retribution is all you should need as a tank. Because you can activate this and cleanse yourself of 2 harmful effects. Somebody can synergize off of it, which will heal people and cleanse that person of any harmful effects on him. So it's a really great synergy to have. But if you also don't want to use this, another ability you can use is, and I suggest this, Blazing Spear. Now, the reason I suggest Blazing Spear is it's a great synergy thing to activate synergies off of, but it also deals a little bit of magic damage, a little bit greater than the other version, the Adric Spear or whatever it is. So you have the 2 morphs, and you have a choice here. You can go with one or the other. It doesn't matter. I choose this one just because it takes a little bit of damage, and the same thing with Ritual Retribution. It does take a little bit of extra damage, which helps the group. It's minor damage, I'm not going to lie, but it still helps. And this also applies a minor heal. So both are really good, and you can have either on your bar. The next ability we have is Power of the Light. Now, I know a lot of people are wondering, why did you put Power of the Light in here? One, it applies Minor Fracture, Minor Breach, which can be really good in it for the group to be able to give that just a little bit more of penetration, so that the DPS doesn't have to put, like your Stam DPS doesn't have to put so much into penetration. This allows them to not build into it so much. And it also is a great ability to stack some damage with. Next up, we have Repentance. Now, the main reason why we have Repentance is resource return on trash fights only. Because on most boss encounters, you're not going to have a lot of ads. And the ones that do, it's kind of hard to draw from the ads in enough time. You have to spam it, like, really quick. And if you have another, like a stamina DPS Templar in your group, yeah, this is kind of useless. Because you won't be able to activate it to get your resource back. But it is a good heal, and it is a good way to return stamina to you. The main reason why we have it slotted is for the Minor Fortitude, Minor Endurance, and Minor Intellect. We need that magic recovery extra on the back bar still, so we maintain that 1037. Otherwise, it goes down below 900. Moving on to the next one, we have Restoring Focus. Now, this is our buff for our Major Resolve and Major Ward. It's a very cheap Magicka ability. And the other thing that you got to understand about playing a Templar is a Templar does have a passive here. They have 2 passives, and there's a reason why I chose Power of the Light and I chose this one. So the 2 passives that they have is they have Prism, which casting a Dawn's Wraith ability generates 3 ultimate. So anytime you cast this, you will get 3 ultimate. Every 6 seconds that you can cast this, you will get 3 ultimate. Now, the next thing is you get Illuminate, which casting a Dawn's Wraith ability gives your people in your group minor sorcery, increasing their spell damage by 5%. It's very much like the DKs get to boost everybody's stamina DPS. This one gets to boost everyone's Magicka DPS. So it's kind of a trade-off. The next ability is, of course, Restoring Spirit. And this is the reason why we chose this over any other buff, is because this one gives you reduced Magicka stamina and ultimate cost by 4%. Now, because you are wearing 1 light, 1 heavy, 1 medium, or 5 heavy, 1 medium, 1 light, you do get the benefits of those armor sets with the reduced cost. So this one reduces the cost of all magic abilities by 2%. So in total, you have a 6% reduced cost. So it makes this a little bit cheaper, or this a little bit cheaper, making it so you don't burn through as much Magicka. And this applies to all your magic abilities, including your Blazing Shield, which is very expensive, but at the same time very helpful. Now, the other reason why we have this here is it also applies Minor Vitality and Minor Protection. So this gives you 8% healing received, which does stack with the 5% the Argonian has, as part of their racial passives. So it takes that 8% adds another 8% from heavy armor. That's 16%. And then you add the 5% from your race, and that 18% goes to 23% healing received. So you get a lot of a decent amount of healing received, not as much as a DK, but a decent amount, which makes it really good. And also you get the 8% damage reduction, which also does stack with the damage reduction you have. In fact, DKs or Templars don't have to build as high into damage reduction as a DK does. They can actually build less and then compensate with other things. Excuse me. So that's really nice. Next up, we have Aggressive Warhorn. This is just essential for any in-game group, for the tank to use Warhorn to apply major toughness, max. It increases max magicka stamina and then applies minor toughness to your group, increasing all those stats by 10% for 30 seconds, but it also grants major force for 9.5 seconds, increasing everyone in your group's critical damage by 15%. So you're going to be wanting to use this as much as you can, because this is going to be that one of those things for ultimate. That's why you want all that ultimate gen, is so you can use Warhorn as often as possible. And it is cheaper on the Templar by 10 points. Not much, but enough. Alright, so next we're going to jump into CP, and we're going to go over the CP that the class get, or that we have allocated the class. And it's a lot different from anything I've ever done in the past, guys, because a lot of things have changed. So going with the red tree, starting here, we have 56 in the Ironclad. Remember how I said you don't have to build as much into your CP as the other classes? And that's because you don't. As a Templar, you can actually trade off some of that because of that circle of protection, which, by the way, if you set this down and you move out of it, you do have Sacred Ground. And anytime you use Rune Focus or Rite of Passage or Cleansing Ritual, you can move out of the area and you will maintain like your minor mending for that time. But you also, with this one, you get the same thing. So you can set this down and you'll see I get a little glow. If I move out of it, I still have that glow. And you'll see the timers going down, and as soon as I go right back into it, the timer goes right back up. Go out of it, go into it. So you're going to be strafing through this, basically. And you want to try and stay in it as much as possible. Anytime it wears off, you want to recast it, and then, like I said, pretty much just block through it. And this is the other reason why you want to have this potion going, is because when you cast this, watch how quickly you get your magicka back. Like, you can sit here and cast it, and you're going to get your magicka back almost instantly after you cast it because of your recovery. So going back to the CP, sorry guys. So we have 56 in the Ironclad. This reduces damage taken from all direct damage abilities, any kind of thing that does direct damage, by 20%, and it stacks with that 8% you get, but not directly. It's an indirect stack. So this will stack with the other damage mitigation you get. Moving over here, we have 56 in a Hardy, 56 in an Elemental Defender. The reason I put 56 in both of these is this is where that 8% damage reduction will stack. So you are actually getting a 20% damage mitigation here. So any direct damage you take, you actually take 40% less damage from it. So it's really powerful to have this set up this way. Next, we have 23 in the Thick Skin. This reduces damage taken from damage over time effects. So this is like poison, bleeds, burnings, that kind of stuff. This isn't damage over time ground effects. This is damage over time effects. So like I said, poison, bleeds, burning, that kind of thing. So this stacks with Hardy and Elemental Defender, which is really good. So you also get Bulwark and Spell Absorption here, which is kind of good as well. Because this one, when you take Flame Frost, Shock Magic, or Oblivion damage equal to 30% of your max health, you restore so much magicka. It's okay, you know. You get Critical Leech. You also get Unchained. Over here, you get Invigorating Bash, which is really good, because when you bash, you have a 20% chance to give yourself health. And remember how I told you guys you're using those shield play? The reason you're using those shield plays so that way you can reduce the cost of your bashing and your blocking. And then of course you also earn phase, which when you dodge roll, your physical and spell resistance is increased by 660. So moving on over here, we have 40 points in the Bastion. Not as much as I usually put in here, but that increases the effectiveness of your damage shields by 16%. So you do get a decent amount of damage shield strength out of this, which is kind of nice. And this does stack with that 34%, or go along with that 34% you get already. So, or it increases that 34%. Sorry. Down here we have quick recovery, increases your healing received by 5%. The only reason why I did this is, like I said, you're an Argonian. You already get 5%. You add another 5% to it. Healing received, that's a 10% increase in healing received, which is pretty good. Moving on, we have 23 into Warlord. This reduces the cost of break free by 10%. Really effective, because it saves you stamina when you need to break free, and you will break free every once in a while on a tank, so this allows you to break free at a reduced cost. Next, we have Bashing Focus. Again, this reduces the cost of bashing by 13%. So this 13% comes off after your block cost and your shield play runes. So that'll remove so much of the cost, which I think is like 2,000 something, and then this will take another 13% off of that. Moving on to the lever tree, we have 76 in Arcanus. This increases our magic recovery by 14%. Do not put 75 in here. I found out that the 14% is actually 13.99999%. So it's not quite 14%. So you're technically getting 13%. Put 76 in here to get that 14% increase to your magic recovery. Next, we have 43 into Tenacity. The only reason why I put 43 into Tenacity is just in case you have time to throw a heavy attack out, you can get some stamina back. It's not going to happen too often. So, moving on to the green tree, we have 31 into Tumbling. This reduces our dodge roll cost by 13%. It's not a huge save on that. So, like, if you look, it's not a huge save, but we do get you know, a little bit of a cost reduction, which is kind of nice. I would say to try to put more in here. If you want to, you can pull the 43 out of Tenacity and put into Tumbling if you want. Next up, we have 56 in the Shadow Ward. This reduces the block costs by 20%. So this is very important. You want to make sure you have this up there. The other thing you can do is you can pull out of over here the 21 into Bashing Focus if you want. And you can pull out of the 31 here, or the 43 here, and you can take this up to 100. But you're only going to get 5% more block cost reduction. And the only time I would suggest doing that is if you're not using defensive posture. Moving on, we have 100 in a Blessed. Something, again, I normally don't do, but I did this to increase those heals from, like, the Ritual of Retribution or you know, anything we use to heal, it's going to get increased. So I wanted to make sure that those heals were going to work for us. I also put 100 in Elfborn. In case we get a critical heal, we'll get that, and it gives us that little bit extra. Over here, we put 40 points in Master Arms. The only reason why we put 40 points in here is not to increase our direct damage, but is to get Reposit. And as you can see, Reposit really doesn't reflect that much damage back. Our Blazing Shield does more. But it's still a nice, you know, thing to have. Next up, we have 10 into Precise Strikes. If you want to use Vigor, you're not going to be using it ever. So there's no point in even really putting the 10 points here. If you wanted to, you could take these 10 points and put them pretty much anywhere. You could put them into here if you wanted to. The only reason why I put the 10 points in here is Opportunist. I guess, I don't know. Because you do interrupt enemies a lot, and getting a little bit of extra damage in one of your light attacks might help. Just a little, I guess. But that is it for the new and improved Meridia's Guardian in-game build. And like I said, it's in-game. So if you're doing dungeons or you're doing trials at in-game, this build will work in those. The hardest thing you're going to have to get is the Lord Warden. If you don't have Lord Warden, what I would suggest is using something like Bloodspawn, or even something like Chokethorn and Shadowrend together, so you get more magic recovery until you can get Lord Warden. But you really want to get that Lord Warden set so you can get that extra resistances for that extra survivability. Because remember, you're trading off things to make up differences. So trading off one to make up the difference of another is really important. We're also not running Alkosh with this. We're running Ebon and Torag's Pact. We could run Alkosh, but honestly, Alkosh isn't going to be as good for us as a Templar. It can work, but this actually works better. DKs work better with Alkosh. That's a given. But Templars work better with Torags. And the other reason why they work better with Torags is Torags does give them a little bit of extra spell damage. And that little bit of extra spell damage can make a difference to their abilities. So, and when you do cast your Ritual of Retribution here, and you have your circle down, like this, you do get the minor sorcery. Or sorry, when you hit the when you have the before you cast your Ritual of Retribution, you want to make sure you put the power of the light on your enemy, and it is kind of a soft taunt if nobody else has hit the target first. Like if I go to apply it to, say, this target skeleton and I'm out in the wilderness, it's going to give me minor sorcery as soon as I apply it. So that also increases our spell damage just a little bit, but it does improve our like our heals and stuff here by just a little bit. So it's kind of nice to have. You do this, you throw on Power of the Light, do that. You know, make sure you have your taunt applied. Go right into block over here like that. And you can pretty much just stand here and just make sure you keep Power of the Light up every once in a while. You don't have to keep up 100% because it lasts for 20 seconds, that buff does. So, as long as you can keep it up before it wears off for your group, you're good. And like I said, if you're running low on resources, let block go and hit meditate. Because as soon as you activate meditate, you automatically get that extra thing. Then you can go block, drop, and you go right back into doing this stuff and keeping these things applied. And you can see the magic recovery return is really well, but we're going to go ahead and burn through some magicka real quick, and I'm going to show you guys the potions. So if you're really low on like resources, you can use a potion, and as I showed you guys, you get a lot of resources back. So it allows you to maintain that, but if you are running low on other resources, synergies. Use your synergies, because it's going to give you resources back. Minor resources, but try to synergize off of orbs and stuff every 20 seconds. This build can work, and it can work really well. It's just up to the player to make it work, and make it work really good for him. So that is it for the, like I said, the new Meridia's Guardian. I know it's not quite what everyone expected, but I did want to have a good in-game build that people would like to use, and since this is a preferred playstyle at in-game, I figured I'd make a build that fit that. But don't think I'm stopping with my other builds. I will be releasing other builds in time with this update. It's just not yet. So that's it, guys, for this build video. I hope you guys like it. If you do, you can hit that like button. If you guys want to see more build videos by me, you can hit that subscribe button. And trust me, guys, I am going to be continuing with non-meta builds as well. So, like I said, you can hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in-game. Bye.